Hello, my name is Olurotimi Osha. I like to talk about history. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's May the 1st, 2026, and it's a day after the departure of King Charles III on his 4-day state visit to the United States. Of course, while he was around, people were there were people who were wishful thinking and ranting for the return of the Kohinoor diamond. The Kohinoor diamond is one of the largest diamonds in the world, and it's set uh, in one of the crowns of the Queen Elizabeth in the in one of the royal crowns. So it's interesting. I want to discuss something similar. I want to discuss a book that discussed the theft of a large diamond from India. It was one of the largest diamonds in India. Of course, it's a work of fiction written by Wilkie Collins. It's the moon. The name of the book, novel is The Moonstone. I love it. One of my favorite novels. Wilkie Collins is one of my favorite authors. He's a contemporary of Charles Dickens, who's about my favorite author as well. Um, Charles Dickens and Wilkie Collins were associates, and he wrote that's Wilkie Collins. He wrote The Moonstone. The Moonstone is um, about a lady, Rachel. Rachel is the love interest of another guy who's a protagonist, Franklin Blake, and she comes from an aristocratic privileged background. She inherited a large diamond, right? This large diamond from her uncle, who was a colonel, who was in the Brit, who was a military officer, right, in the British Army, and he had, um, there was this tale about a legend about how he had uh, murdered Indians while he was in India and stolen this large diamond. So she inherited the diamond on her 18th birthday. So interestingly, though, something happened on her 18th birthday. Her love interest, somebody she was in love with, Franklin Blake, um, he in a trance state. She wasn't aware of it, but he was in a trance-like state. She saw him when he walks into her room past midnight and steals the diamond. And he looked like a fiend, right? There was this glazed look in his eyes. He was a wide awake, and she could see him. And she saw him. They even looked at each other, and she was stunned. So she knew this guy stole the diamond, and he was pretending, right? This was what she thought. He stole the diamond. Nobody could find the diamond. It was lost. And this guy, Franklin Blake, was the one who was now leading the charge to a mission to find the diamond because nobody knew where the diamond was. But she loved him, right? She was in love with him, so she couldn't report it. She couldn't tell anybody that, hey, that it was her, her love interest was, her lover who stole the diamond. And she hated him from then on, but eventually we end up discovering that Franklin Blake, somebody who was a brilliant scientist, you know, would learn, would unravel the mystery, right, of what really happened. By the way, the book, The Moonstone, is considered one of the first detective novels. I loved it. So it's mysterious. We can't figure out what happened. But it turns out Franklin Blake had been drugged. He'd been secretly drugged with laudanum. Laudanum is a form of opium, right? Laudanum, he'd been drugged and he'd entered this state, this narcotic trance like state that's induced by the use of laudanum, right? And so that he is actually unconscious, right? He is in a state of catalepsy, right? Which is something I discussed. I described this when I was talking about the effects of ketamine, right? Which I was wrongfully drugged with in the ambulance when I was removed after I'd been assaulted in the false flag and swatting operation that occurred on May 16, 2023 violating my constitutional, civil, and human rights. Um, so the state that's induced by laudanum, which was what was used in the book The Moonstone, was it caused Franklin Blake, that's the love interest of Rachel, who inherited the diamond. It caused him to, even though he was awake, because he was intoxicated with the drug, but he's acting, he's doing things, um, but his conscious mind is blocked, right? But his reflexes, he can act, he can do things. He's in a trance-like state, like somebody being in a under hypnosis, right? Or somebody who's in a hypnotic state, right? It's just like when they hypnotize someone and they start to order them around. But this person is doing, he's acting around, he's doing these things. He got up from his room, walked into, he knew where the diamond was. He went in, took the diamond, and he, even though he looked at Rachel, his love interest, and they saw each other, he just goes on and he hides it, and then he goes to sleep, but he can't remember anything. He's not conscious of what he's doing. So even though he's moving around, but the reality is he's actually asleep. So there are drugs that can induce that state. And one of the drugs, according to Moonstone, that induced it was laudanum, which is a form of opium, right? Ketamine can do the same thing as well. Ketamine can induce what's a trance-like state, a dissociative anesthesia, and so that the reflex motions of someone are still intact, right? Your reflexes are intact. You can move around, you can sneeze, you can even wipe your nose if your nose is running, but you're actually asleep. But your eyes are open due to what's called nystagmus, right? Nystagmus. So your eyes, involuntary eye movements, your eyes are wide open, right? So that was what happened to me in suburban hospital. So in the ambulance, I'd been intentionally drugged. I think it was Dr. Thomas Cochran who may have administered that drug in the ambulance. So Maryland, Montgomery County Police, they had initially gaslighted me. They'd obtained the illegal emergency evaluation petition, fraudulently obtained, evacuated my building at 2301 Glen Allen Avenue, Silver Spring, Maryland, zip code 20906. And they had surrounded the building, evacuated the building, spread disinformation that I was actually a dangerous criminal who was holding a woman hostage. I don't know if they were using it metaphorically, because I had filed a complaint against Jamie A. Simon, whose father is a physician at National Institutes of Health, which is affiliated with the hospital they took me to, Suburban Hospital. I don't know who asked that I should be, who made that request. My family was unaware of this. I did make that request, right? And it was my health insurance. I had health insurance, right? So I don't know who made the request, who ordered for me to be taken to Suburban Hospital. I don't know how that decision was made. Of course, the Department of the Navy was involved. It was a false flag operation. It was illegally involved. It was a constitutional right violation to obstruct justice. And of course, they used Jide Iwariri. Jide Iwariri apparently, again, filed the fabricated emergency evaluation petition, made completely false accusations. He misrepresented his relationship to me. I did not threaten anybody at any time. I was not ill. I was not I never hallucinated. I was not in any state, right? The day before May 15, 2023, there was evidence. I was at the gym. I was working out. I met people, right? So one of the ways that I got to also know that of course, the doctor later on, I saw it in the doctor because he tried to keep me in the hospital. He claimed that he had administered ketamine, right? So this was illegal. It was without my consent. It was without my family's consent. Of course, there was a shot in my head, right? They'd shot me in the head. So they could say, well, in order to extract the taser dart they'd put into me. So the way I was shot, right? It's funny, the person who shot me, the police officer, Jeffrey Ray, he claimed his intention was to use his Glock to kill me, to shoot me. So it's ironic he used a taser dart, his taser gun instead, and shot me there. I guess it was a way that the Navy, the Pentagon, people at the rogue agents of the Department of the Defense and Department of the Navy. It was a way they were trying to intimidate and threaten me to let me know that they could have easily put a bullet in my head, and they would run with that false narrative that I was a dangerous lunatic who'd gone into the psychotic state and I was trying to kill people. So they committed a crime. This is against American laws. It's against our Constitution. It's what they do in Nazi, what they were doing in Nazi Germany. It's what they say they did in USSR, right? They have apparatchiks, and they can just commit you dissidents into a psychiatric hospital and give them forced treatment until they accept state propaganda. It's not what America is about. That's not, my family would accept it. I wouldn't accept it, right? I know my constitutional rights. I'm somebody, I don't have a mental illness. That's been clarified, right, by Maryland state psychiatrists. But I didn't need them. I didn't need them to be able to determine that, no, I don't have a mental illness. They committed fraud to do this, right? My friends already knew I didn't have a mental illness. My family, my mother who gave birth to me already knew I didn't have a mental illness. The Jide Iwarere who filed the fraudulent emergency evaluation petition, who assumed that an emergency evaluation petition can be abused to discover if someone has a mental illness or not. No, that's not what it's used for, because it violates your constitutional rights. An emergency evaluation petition is only used for someone who is known to have a mental illness. He has a mental illness and they have a threat. They're suicidal and homicidal. There's no evidence I was ever suicidal or homicidal. I've never been homicidal or suicidal. I've never threatened anybody. So it was an abuse of an emergency evaluation petition, not a misuse. There's a difference between an abuse and a misuse. Misuse means it was done in error, right? You're uninformed. But abuse means it was intentional. It was intentional. It was an intentional violation, right? It was done maliciously, intentionally, right? In bad faith. So I thought it was interesting. I wanted to link this Moonstone, the story Moonstone, which is one of my favorite books. You should read it, written by Wilkie Collins. And it describes the state I was trying to explain, that I found that one of the physician from maybe MedStar and Suburban Hospital, it put me in after Montgomery County Police, the SWAT team, after Montgomery County Police had shot me illegally in my head, used excessive and disproportionate force. They were ostensibly coming to, pick me up for an emergency evaluation petition that I was unaware of, that was obtained fraudulently, and I was unaware of. I was in my home. I wasn't committing any crime. There was no probable cause. Instead, they gaslighted me. They falsely imprisoned me after spreading disinformation to my neighbors and to the building. And then they gaslighted me by they falsely imprisoned me, locking me in my apartment with a band, blocked my peephole. Meanwhile, they had me thinking, because the Navy had planned to have to take me through a test. They had planned an interview, an appointment with me on that day, claiming that they were taking me through a Navy General Officers Professions program, and were trying to give me a psychological and fitness test. So all of that, first of all, they'd gaslighted me, locked me in, caused that fear, a panic that, what's going on? They'd hacked all my electronic devices. And this is not hallucinating or being delusional. So I remember everything that happened, right, on that day. Remembered everything that happened up to the point when I was placed in the ambulance, right? Because that ketamine had not been administered. Once ketamine was administered while I was in the ambulance, I had no idea what happened until its effects wore off and I woke up the next day. But I have a video from Discovery when I was naked in handcuffs and I'm making head movements, right? Involuntary head movements, even though I cannot remember anything that happened on that day. Now, when I was taken to MedStar Hospital, there was a doctor there, Thomas Cochran, and Thomas Cochran, of course, was telling lies. Immediately he told me, I can't remember what happened. I remembered what happened up until the time I was placed in an ambulance. And to me, I didn't know, I woke up the next day, May 17th, right? And I remembered everything that happened. I was conscious, nothing, not in any drugged, trance-like state or anything like that. But this doctor immediately just said, "You don't remember what happened." Immediately, that was the first thing he told me. I'm like, how do you know you don't how do you know I don't remember what happened? How is it possible that you know what I'm thinking, what I remember and what I don't remember, since I haven't told you? I haven't even narrated what happened to you. So immediately I knew there was something fishy, funny going on. I didn't want to talk to him. I said, okay, you know what? I'm not talking to anybody until I see my family, my mom, because they were now telling me that, well, they said this crazy stuff about how I wanted to kill people, threatened to bomb people, all a fabrication, because I remember exactly what happened, right? So he was referring to, because he knew that ketamine had been administered to me. He probably was the one who administered it while I was in the ambulance. Once they removed me in handcuffs from my apartment and put me in the ambulance while in my home, they're transporting me to, I guess, Suburban Hospital is the first place they took me to. Um, he knew I had been drugged with ketamine, and ketamine, you're in a trance-like state, like a state of psychosis. You can't remember anything. So the purpose was for two other doctors who maybe they saw me, they didn't see me, I don't know, for them to write the falsified certification, right? That, well, this person um, came in, he's a psychotic person who's homeless. That's what they wrote, because apparently the police gave them a fabricated report, incident report, saying, even though I was removed from my apartment, the emergency evaluation petition said, showed my apartment, but where I lived. But Suburban Hospital, where I'd been transferred to, now falsified their intake, saying I was homeless, I didn't have any relatives, even though they had the emergency evaluation petition, which said Jide Ware was my uncle, even where he fabricated. He's not my uncle, but he fabricated that. It showed my address, but they wrote something completely falsified. So you see the conspiracy to violate my civil rights, my constitutional rights, and the defamatory falsification of government records. The purpose was to cover up for the misconduct complaints of a Jamie A. Simon. Interestingly, like I said, Suburban Hospital is affiliated with National Institutes of Health, where Jamie A. Simon told me her father is a physician, right? So that's the last place that I want to go to for treatment, right? So I was injured maliciously by you know Montgomery County Police and the SWAT team and rogue agents of the Department of the Navy that used excessive, disproportionate force. The Department of the Navy and the Department of Defense may also have violated the Posse Comitatus Act. Some of the police officers who were involved, Hechin Chin, is a military reserve. The police officer who filed the false charges against me filed the false charge statement, fabricated, perjured charge statement. Demarcus Coleman is a is affiliated with the Navy and the Marines as well. From investigations, from research and investigations, that's what it indicates. So that's not what happened to me, the false flag. That's not what law enforcement is supposed to engage in. They're not supposed to violate the rights of Americans and obstruct justice and retaliate against them for filing a petition for the government to redress their grievances. Um, what happened to me was barbaric. It was a Nazi operation, and there are lots of Nazis, neo-Nazis at the Pentagon and the Department of Defense and our military, and especially in law enforcement, and particularly in Montgomery County, Maryland. Many of the judges there, their part-time job or their previous careers, they had probably worn white hoods over their heads, including Judge James Bonifant. My name is Olurotimi Osha. I'll keep you posted. Thank you.